How's it going, guys? So I'm here with Annika McGivern, and some of you may recognize her. We've had her on a Zoom call before, and basically we're at the Elite Summit. Things went fantastically well. Annika did a great job, but there was something in her presentation that I thought would really hit home with you guys. I know that we have provided a couple of you guys with a book called Atomic Habits by James Clear. So something that came up in the presentation was this idea of identity and the identity that you have to yourself, and when you're going through the process of your fitness journey, how that identity can change, yeah? And there was one of the slides that really hit home. It was the changing of think, then do, and then be. And then Annika said that it's actually round the wrong way. It should be, do, and think. So Annika, can you just explain that kind of concept to the guys and the importance and relevance that it has to someone who's going through a fitness journey?
Yeah, absolutely. So that book, as Steve mentioned there, the Atomic Habits, the James Clear, he talks about the fact that we get held back because we get too attached to the first version of our identity, which is quite an interesting thing to think about, you know, by itself. That we all have an initial version of our identity that we cling to. We feel comfort in sort of holding on to that and saying, okay, this is who I am. I know who I am, and that makes me feel safe and secure. But the problem is that initial version of who we are, if we're not willing to upgrade and expand that as we work towards bigger goals and seek to change, then that initial version is going to hold us back. So we have to be willing to say, okay, that first version of who I am, that's just my starting point in life. And we learn that first version just through the experiences that we have growing up. And so sometimes we don't have a lot of control over who we learn we are, but we always have control over how we evolve from that first version. So when we're looking at, okay, if we accept that, if we're like, okay, great, I'm going to try to evolve my identity, the question then is, how do we do that? And sometimes we can feel a little lost when we consider that, right? I just am who I am. How do I change that? So that brings us to the think, do, be versus be, do, think model, okay? So sometimes when we think about changing who we are, we go about it backwards. So we say, right, to be a different person, I need to think differently and I need to do things differently. So we try to generate new behaviors and habits. We try to start to develop new thought processes. We work with our mindset. The problem is that if we stay as that original version of ourselves, so if we're still being the old version of us, it can be incredibly difficult to sustain those new thoughts and behaviors over time. Because the old version of us is still kind of caught in the pattern of doing things and thinking about things the way that you have for years and years, right? We've been practicing it for a long time. So what neuroscience is showing us now is that we need to flip that on its head. We need to think about being a different version of ourselves first in order to generate new behaviors and new thoughts. So how do we be a different version of ourselves? We have to imagine that version first. We have to think, okay, and what I really like to do and what we did in the presentation yesterday was just write down, like, who is that future version of yourself? Get it on paper. And then look at that and think, what would it be like to be that person today? How does that person think and act? What would it mean to take ownership of that identity, of that future version of yourself, and start to be that version of you today? Now, I'm not saying it's easy, but if we can start thinking like that and working our mind around that, then the new actions and the new thoughts and the new behaviors are going to flow from that shift in a much more kind of organic way than if we just stay as our old self and just try over and over again to do and think differently. So hopefully I've explained that all right. What do you think? Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
100%. Like, I think it's one of the most important things. Like, if you're not kind of invested into that thought process, it doesn't matter what you do or what you think. You're never really going to get there in the end. So if the guys want to find a bit more about what you do, where can they get you?
So you can find me in two places. So number one on Instagram, where you can either just put in my name, Annika McGivern, or if you search the handle at AMP_performance psych, you'll find me there too. You can also check out my website, which is just my name, www.annikamcgivern.com. And I'm always just love connecting with new people. So reach out, ask questions, let me know who you are. Always happy to chat about anything to do with the mind, performance psychology. Bring it on.
Thank you very much.
You betcha.